So I had done my first, I'll never forget it. My first floor care demo was in a nursing home to, surround the customer with all their business. And it was on a Friday night at 11 o'clock at night. I agreed to do it. And they told me all the people they were going to have help there. And I had the product or whatever. Make a long story short, the person teaching me kept telling me, get prepared, have everything ready in advance. And we did. Arrived that day. 6 people were there. I was there. Nobody had the keys to the storeroom.
Welcome to Beyond Clean with Ace. In the world of commercial cleaning, whether you're new to the industry or a seasoned professional, you know we're all more than just toilets, windows, and floors. We're just like everyone else with diverse interests in everything. Now in Season 9, tens of thousands have discovered engaging and thoughtful knowledge that's truly game-changing at Beyond Clean with Ace. Whether you're a facility manager, a frontline staff member, or a building services contractor, we're here to help you grow personally and professionally. So hit that subscribe button and share with others. We're all about enhancing lives in healthy, positive, and proactive ways. So join me, Dave Thompson, Director of the Academy of Cleaning Excellence, your host at Beyond Clean with Ace. Hello, everyone. This is Dave Thompson, and yes, you tuned in to another episode of Beyond Clean with Ace. We talk about everything that is cleaning, and sometimes, and most generally, we talk about stuff that isn't about cleaning, because you know what the thing is? Janitors have lives other than just cleaning toilets, washing windows, and doing floors. However, you never know who the next guest is going to be. And, I was doing a little bit of research before we jumped on the air to record this session for you today. 2021 was the last time he came on my podcast. It's been 4 years. I think just maybe there's something to talk about that is different than what it was then. So let's see if technology works real well today and see if Mr. Jerry is there. And yes, I see a face, Jerry.
It's me.
It's you. Good. Well,
go ahead. I'm ready to start. Go.
He's like, whoa, let's get going. It has been 4 years since we had you on the podcast. So I don't think that probably anybody listening today knows who you are, what you do, and let's talk about it.
No problem. My name is Jerry Bauer. I live in Long Island, New York. I'm originally from the Midwest, where I actually came across with Dave years ago. I work at Chem Station of Boston. We cover all of New England, and I sell to primarily the chemicals that I sell is for food processing. A lot of the industry that I cover in New England also has to do with breweries. Breweries are going through trying times right now. Food processing as well. I've been doing this for 8 years. Coming out of the Midwest, I was more selling into the hospitality market, and I'm glad to be back. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and tell a story from 4 years ago.
Wait a minute. Maybe I should find out what that story's all about before I let you air that, Jerry.
Right. Well, you had me on your show, and one of the things we talked about after, because I have spoken to you, was I started a podcast. My podcast does not have the range that yours does, and I did it more as a hobby to learn more, to meet new people, and it's been a great experience. And I will tell you in your audience that you and I spoke. I called you one day with a question about podcasting. This was after we had done the podcast in your show. I said, I'm ready to start. I'm ready to do it. I'm doing this. And maybe I needed some technical advice or something. I don't remember. But it was one of these conversations that you remember where you were when that conversation was. I remember exactly the time of day and exactly where I was sitting in my car. I'd asked you a question, and you came back and you asked me a question. You said,
You know what? I've had more than one person say I do that.
You came back to me with a question. You said, Jerry, please explain to me. He said, podcasting is great, blah, blah. He goes, you'll be great at it. He goes, but please explain to me why you're doing the podcast. So I had said, well, brand awareness, you got blah, blah. I had named off about 5 different things. And you called me out right then and there over the phone and said, Jerry, let me give you some advice. You said, everything you answered, you were talking about you. You never said what you're going to do for your audience. And I tell you what, that hit me hard. And I have remembered it every day since. So I did start a podcast. My initial goal was to do one a week. I'm lucky to get one a month done.
I was going to say, that's a bit ambitious for everybody.
Yeah, that the editing, I don't need to tell you all the things. It's when you get the guests, it's just like the people listening today don't know that we started this a couple minutes early. You text me and stuff, and I had already lost the link. I had to have you send me the link. I recently did a podcast, and I'm sure you have 100 of these stories, where a person was releasing a book, and he was releasing a book on opening up a janitorial business. That's how he did it, his claim to fame. And he wanted to promote his book. I said, that's fine. So had the appointment, was on a Friday afternoon. He was on the West Coast. And he was the only person that, I'm not going to name him, but he was the only person who made me go through his secretary to set up the appointment. Set up the appointment, weeks in advance. I did it at 5:00 on the East Coast, to make it easier for I didn't want him to do it in the morning, and it's Friday afternoon. So I had some free time, so I did research, like you just did research on me. I looked up his book. I read everything on his website. I knew everything there was about the gentleman. And then 10 minutes before 5, he texted me and he said, why did I schedule this on a Friday afternoon? He goes, why did we schedule this on a Friday afternoon? I said, there is no we to this. It's you and your secretary. I'm just along for the ride. Well, we never did have the podcast. So, but it was the hours getting ready for it, because my podcast normally go 20, 30 minutes. And I spent hours. So I'm not complaining. It has helped me immensely in communication skills, which was one of the things I wanted to work on. We all can get better in communication skills. Back then, at that time, I had joined Toastmasters for communication skills as well, so that I could go out, and I wanted to do, and I know you do a lot of it, I wanted to do more public speaking. So I wanted to get more of that into my material of learning and stuff like that. So I know I've given you a long answer, and I've gone back 4 years on you, but that's who I am. And I appreciate you having me here today.
Well, Jerry, since you started the podcast today that way, I'm going to follow your lead.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go back further than 4 years.
You're right.
St. Louis Community College.
Correct.
St. Louis, my time in St. Louis was like, 87 through 2015?
Correct.
You were working with Ecolab.
That's correct.
I sold Air Chem for OK Vacuum.
Correct.
Now I'm going back a little more than 4 years.
Well, and just so you know, and I don't know if you remember this, because I'm at home today and working in my office at home, and I had just told my wife that I was joining and who I was joining with, and I had shared with her, and I don't know if you remember this, OK Vacuum was on Manchester Road.
Yes, sir. Still was.
One street over was a street called Kinston. I was born and raised on Kinston. So I was there when OK Vacuum used to be They used to work on lawnmowers and stuff like that. Outdoor Equipment was the name of that building. So that's going back over 40 years. So, and then after you and I crossed paths, you went to Rolla, Missouri. See, I remember all that.
Okay, yes.
And you and I communicated occasionally through there because I never had any experience in floor care. Going back to the day when I was selling wash and laundry products for Ecolab, which, nation largest, one of the world's largest companies, they didn't have a floor care program. So we were selling nursing homes, the kitchen. We were selling nursing homes, the laundry, but we didn't have a good housekeeping program, and we didn't have a floor care program at all. So what happened was we started losing business because the janitorial houses became smart. They decided, you know what? We're doing the floor care. We're working there at midnight at night. We're doing all the hard lifting. We're going to go after some of that easier business, the laundry business and the wash business, because we're already in the building. And it became highly successful for most janitorial houses to do that route. Well, it took Ecolab many years to join into that. And at that time, I had changed for another company and had the same problem where I couldn't hold on to nursing homes because they didn't know floor care.
Right.
So I came to you different occasions to ask you different questions, but it's like anything else. And I know you have a training class and you teach all this, but a lot of it you can teach all day, but it's baptism by fire. You know that.
Yeah, I mean, education, and that's what I do here in the classroom. It's education. And I had a guy that was asking me, he said, what about online versus in person? And I said, well, here's the deal. The online education that I have is exactly the same information that you're going to get when you're in a live class.
Right.
One great big difference. When you're here with me, you can ask those why questions, Jerry, and you can get feedback and you can learn the skill that goes along with it. Because, the thing here is imparting information and education is one thing. Putting it into practice and skill, it's a totally different thing.
Right. So I had done my first, I'll never forget it. My first floor care demo was in a nursing home to, surround the customer with all their business. And it was on a Friday night at 11 o'clock at night. I agreed to do it. And they told me all the people they were going to have help there. And I had the product or whatever. Make a long story short, the person teaching me kept telling me, get prepared, have everything ready in advance. And we did. Arrived that day. 6 people were there. I was there. Nobody had the keys to the storeroom.
Oh, Jerry. How many of these stories could we sit here this afternoon and talk about?
What do you do at midnight and you're looking for the key and they couldn't find that whole night was one story after the next. Finally, when we got keys, we got moving, and I had brand new black pads there for stripping and stuff. They couldn't find them. They brought out a black pad that was about as thin as tissue paper, and it was just a nightmare. I left about 4 or 5. It was just a nightmare. They were going to clean up. Didn't get anything done. And on Saturday morning, I had to call the owner at 10 o'clock because I knew the owner was going to be there at 10 o'clock to look at the work. And I called at 10 o'clock. I got the owner on the phone, and her first question was, what the went on last night?
A comedy show, that's what it was, of errors.
And then finally, when I had to tell her the truth, I said, your employees showed up, but not the proper employees, not the manager, not the person with the keys, And she said, I thought so. So,
Jerry, what's interesting about this, and folks, if you're listening or watching on our podcast today, we appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see Jerry here right along the bottom. There is Jerry's email address if you want to get a hold of him. If you're listening, sorry, it'll be in the show notes for you. You know, what's interesting, Jerry, as we talk about this, which you do not know, is I'm now in the final stages of publishing my first volume of the trilogy of my business career over 50 years.
Fantastic.
Now, what's interesting about that is as you're talking about this history lesson that we're doing this afternoon, is the OK Vacuum start days. And I've even put in the book, so here's a sneak for everybody, because nobody's heard this. Because I don't know, do you remember Link Cruise Camp by any chance?
Remember the name, most definitely.
Well, we called him General. And the reason is because he served under General Patton. And when he went to work, he was like a general. It was regimented, and that was his mode. Now, do you know what his floor care demonstration was?
No.
Much different than yours and mine, because see, I came to it because I was a janitor. I was a custodian. I had my own business.
Right.
So when I moved to St. Louis, I knew how to do the work. I did not know anything about how to sell.
Right.
So for me, I was just like what you said. I went out, I did a full demo. When I went out, my truck was loaded with everything. Because one thing I knew, I didn't trust anybody to have anything. I took it all with me. Link told me the first time I drove with him, he says, son, you're too young. You're too full of energy. I know how to do it. Watch what I do. His was out of a sample case. You remember the sample case, right?
Yes. Yes.
He would pull out 2 VCT tiles, put them on the customer's desk. One already had finish on it, one didn't. He would take a bottle, put stripper in it, shake it up, pour it on there, and take a center of a black pad, scrub that, take another sponge and wipe it off, rinse it. Then he would take out his floor finish and another sponge and apply a coat of finish on one, apply a coat of finish on the other. And he said, there's stripping, there's waxing. Where's the order?
I bet you he was successful.
Do you want to know something? I never saw him not take an order whenever we left but the thing is he had a regiment. And I even have written in the book that some of that regiment was what I learned because I didn't know anything about selling. Right. I knew how to clean. I knew how to do the work. There is a total difference.
Right. Right.
But you can also, as I've written in the book, is, you know, how many people over those years that you did and I did, how many sales reps from factories and stuff did we train during all those years?
Most definitely. Most definitely. And I hear from some today, and well, you hear from them and you're excited because some have gone to the wayside and that's not encouraging, but some people have become much more highly successful than myself. And that's just fantastic because they do come back and thank you for some of the things that they might have shared with you.
Well, I think what's interesting as you and I are talking about that this afternoon is that we went through some of the hard labor stuff. We went through some of the hard. I mean, you're seeing the new people come into this industry that are, I had a gentleman yesterday. He's in his mid 30s. He's already got a $5 million janitorial company. You know, he's already doing this. And I'm thinking, good gosh, but they have all of the tools that you and I didn't have. But what they lack is some of our wisdom, and they're still coming back to us for some of our wisdom to put with their tools, right?
Correct. Correct.
Gosh, what you and I could have done with the tools, huh?
I know. You know, the training of people years ago was a lot different. I'm talking about salespeople in the field. I literally worked, yes, I was with Ecolab, and at that time, going back in the day, it was called Economics Lab, but I rode with somebody for 1 solid year.
Oh my!
Every day, rode with him.
Wow!
And ran his territory with him. After a couple months, he would give me some of his customers who'd already seen my face and stuff like that. And I want to use the word, he didn't give me the best jobs to do. He gave me the jobs he didn't want to do, which is fine.
So he cherry picked the accounts of what we're saying.
Yeah. So he gave me the work he didn't want to do, which is fine because you got in the trenches and got the job done.
Sure.
But, now a lot of companies, they hire you on a Monday, and on Monday afternoon, they give you the laptop, they give you this, they give you that. Tuesday, you're out making calls by yourself. And they say it's all in the laptop.
And I wrote in there about all of that kind of stuff too, because back in those days, Link was showing me his account cards, which are all, a stiff paper with columns on it and handwritten, and you spend every night charting everything. And of course, nowadays it's all automatically done for you.
Right. I have to ask you, I know you're interviewing me for the podcast, but I got to come right back to you and tell me more about the book, because ingenious idea. I wish I would have taken better notes.
You know what? It's been a labor over a number of years. 9 years ago, I moved down here to Florida to start this what I'm calling my last hurrah of my career, the last segment of my career here. And I started really putting the formula together for it, and going back and trying to do the memoir type thing for the business side of my life, not the personal.
Right.
And, you think about all of the things, and it got so huge. I mean, it was just because the thing about it is, the older you get, the more you want to put out all of the information. We love to talk, right?
Right.
The thing about us old guys is we have stories, and we love these stories because they are our life, right?
Correct.
Well, the problem is the book gets too long.
Right.
And so using the modern technology that you're talking about, and hey, I'm happy to tell people I'm doing it because it's there. Let's do it. I'm using like 4 different AI programs to go through all of the, I can't really say what's on my brain right here. I don't want to make this, I want to make sure this is not X-rated here. But all of the junk that comes out of your head, but to format it, to put it in and then make it readable instead of just quite literal.
Right.
It's a challenge.
Oh, I know.
But AI helps do that for us, which is the things that helps us. So it's kind of been a thing. And I was really fighting with it, Jerry, about how do you put this all out? How do you make it interesting for somebody that's not in the business like you and I, or maybe even some of the people that are listening to us, they're janitors or custodians or facility managers, they get it. But what about everybody else?
Right.
And I think that's why I like the title that we have here, Beyond Clean, because there's more to our life than just the cleaning part.
Correct.
There's the substance that puts us together, that binds us together. The reason, as you said, why do we do what we do?
Most definitely.
So that's when all of this flushed out to where now we're actually doing it in 3 volumes. And I kept looking at going, yes, that's true. There's been basically 3 different stages of my career over 50 years. That the first part was just being a janitor. And that means doing the frontline work in my youth and my growing up years. And then there was what you and I just talked about, being a salesman for so many years. And then when I moved here to Florida, now I'm an educator.
Right. Well, good for you. And I personally have gone through many different changes like you through my career. The move from the Midwest, where I had worked for Ecolab, then I worked for Gateway Pro Clean out in St. Charles, right, and had been there a total of 15 years. And then they had sold out to Swisher, who later sold out back to Ecolab. Ecolab wouldn't rehire me, blah, blah, blah. I literally could see the handwriting on the wall where I knew I had to find a new job. So I would come home at night, it's getting close to 60 years old, saying, I'm going to have to find a job. 401k is not strong enough yet. So my wife would say, can we move to Long Island, New York, where her parents were? And I would give her the quick answer of no. And
Now wait a minute. Now you're really making that 401k not work. But I guarantee you the difference in cost of living between those two is great.
Yeah. So, make a long story short, I talked to some people. It got closer. I got hired here in New York to work in New York, and I went to work in Manhattan. And Manhattan is a story within itself. I wish I could just write a book about the 2 years that I was there.
Hey, you can, man. You can.
I
am doing it. You can. I'm nothing special.
The reason I'm sharing this with you is one important story, and it has to do nothing actually do with cleaning. Has nothing to do with our jobs.
That's okay.
I had come home one day, and if you've ever been to New York, you have to take, if you're along Long Island, everybody, if you're in New Jersey, you have to take a train into Manhattan. You can't drive. If you drive, parking's too expensive. You can't find. I thought you could find street parking. Street parking's for commercial vehicles only, blah, blah, blah. So you take a train in, you take subways around. It's an animal all within itself. And to be honest with you, I haven't done it now in 7 years, and I miss it because it was extremely exciting as well. However, with that said, I came home and I guess I was depressed or, not in a good mood or quiet. And my wife taught me something that day, and that has stuck with me. And she said, tomorrow, she said, while you're at work, take 5 minutes out of the day. Just take 5 minutes. Sit down and look at how the city in a different way. Don't look at it as a job. Just for 5 minutes, look how what other people see that you might quite possibly not see.
Right.
So I'll never forget, this was on a Thursday. I had a call on a Friday. Everybody loves Friday afternoon calls. I made a call I had an appointment Friday afternoon. I forget what hotel it was at, but as the chef didn't have time, you know how you're supposed to go a half hour. It was 5 minutes because he had to get ready for his Friday night crowd.
Yeah.
Again, he's the one who set the appointment. But so I'm leaving the hotel. I walk out. I crossed the street. I said, now I got to catch a subway. I got to catch a train. I hope to get home at 7:30 on a Friday night. I'm just shaking my head. And then the light bulb went off in my head. My wife saying, take 5 minutes. So I sat down, and I didn't even realize this. Behind me was Central Park. And I was at a hotel right there. And I saw all these visitors of the city pointing things to their children and talking and laughter. And I went and got something to drink, and I sat there for 10 minutes, and I absorbed a whole different change. A change happened, not just because of working in there, but I was looking at my whole life as too much of a job rather than we have to find some enjoyment out of it as well. So it really changed me. I eventually got an opportunity to work up in New England, and I don't have to travel to the city. I have to travel a little bit further, but let's be honest, the scenery in Vermont, in New Hampshire, and Maine's a lot better than the scenery being on the Long Island Expressway trying to get into the city. So I miss working in the city a lot. However, we all have to go through transitions in our life. So that was definitely
as we're recording this today, fall just hit on the calendar, and you mentioned those areas of New England. You're getting ready to get into the really good time up there.
Now, I was up there, just so you know, I was up there last week, and it's starting. The problem is they've had a bad drought. So a lot of leaves right now are starting to turn brown. But it's always it's extremely beautiful. It really is. It was, let me tell you, I was in a town of Woodstock. There's a Woodstock, New York. I was in a town called Woodstock, Vermont, 2-3 years ago. And it's what you don't know in life. And I literally walked into a gas station. I grabbed a soda. I had a half hour to kill. I'm not sure what. I think I might have been waiting for another appointment, waiting for someone to get back to and I went and asked the person at the gas station. I said, is there any places around here to take photographs? That's very popular. And the guy just started laughing. He goes, yeah, that's a good story. I said, no, I'm really looking. I'm looking for help. I go, is there a mile over here, or, a cliff or something I can take a picture? He goes, you don't know? I said, no, I don't know. He goes, you are in the area where the most famous photographs are in Vermont. And it's a mile away. I'll give you directions. And it is. And I'll send it to you. It is literally, there was literally a line to take photographs, and it's overlooking a farm with a valley and all of this. And you can look it up on YouTube. You can look at most famous photos of Vermont. It'll take you right to it. It's amazing. But, I'm asking the guy at the gas station, where can I take a fancy photo? But it goes back to that theory where you have to take a couple minutes out of each day to enjoy something for yourself, no matter what industry you're in.
Yeah, and I think this is why I call this in the podcast Beyond Clean, because the thing is, the cleaning industry has been absolutely wonderful to me because it has given me the ability to do things that I would have never, ever thought of otherwise. The opportunity to be in places. And when, we were talking about the book and doing the retrospect of where you've been, what you've done, the places you've been. The one thing that I always say about cleaning, I think you could probably admit to this too, we get into places that the common everyday general public would never ever see.
Correct.
I don't know of another industry where you can do that like we can.
Correct. Because, and I just learned this by my working up in New England. I do food processing plants. Those are locked down, and they're locked down more than ever now, especially after COVID and things like that. You have to sign different waivers to go in. You have to put booties on. You got to put the hairnet on. You got to put everything on. And, you just can see through your eyes of what you need to do and stuff like that. But it's extremely fascinating. And
as you mentioned that, I remember a place south of St. Louis. I think it was down around Herculaneum that they did aircraft wings.
Oh, really?
And I had to sign the waivers like you're talking about. Here's the interesting thing. When I got in there, I had to bring a low-speed floor machine with me. And they said they had a pad driver. They said they would provide the pads. Well, what do you think? You think you're going to be on the floor, right?
Right.
Do you know where they stuck me?
No, where?
On the top of an airplane wing with a floor machine polishing on an aluminum wing. And I can't really go much further, but it was an experience that it's one of these things you can't take pictures because, like you said, you're in a place where you can't do that. Trust me, folks, it was one of the most, and there's many in my career, that was one of the most unique experiences that as you go to a demo, you're prepared for one thing, you walk through the door. Never in my life would I've ever figured that would happen.
My mouth is wide open. You can see that. That's amazing. And that's amazing. And, that is one reason I like my podcast, because you learn something new from each person, bring something from their life or from cleaning or from customers. It's a learning experience. And I can tell you that each person, as we've stayed in contact, each person has been on the show, you stay in contact, you hope to stay in contact once a year and stuff like that, because they're a wealth of information. Because you're the one, and I'm giving you the credit, and I think about this frequently, you're the one who stated how large the industry is, by the time you add cleaning, the chemicals, the whole thing. I think you had said, and I've done some research, and you can't find any hard numbers, but it's in the top 10 industries in the United States, for sure, by the time you add it all together.
Well, there's different reports that come out at different times, Jerry, and it's like reports are who to believe which one,
right?
But I think at one point, and I think we're now 2025, so I think it said by year 2026 that people in the cleaning industry would be the number 6 most needed job in America. And if you looked at that report at that time, everything, all the jobs before us was healthcare related.
Correct.
And of course, my point is, of all of those jobs, we're the most healthcare related because we're the ones that are the harbingers of health. We're the ones that precede everybody else that takes care of an illness after the fact. Of course, I get a lot of flashback on that too.
Right. Amazing. Yeah, it's a great industry. If there's anybody listening today considering getting in it, they're not in it yet. It's a fantastic industry. You can do whatever you want with it, technically.
Now you said something about people listening. So I'm just going to give you some numbers, Jerry, because you kind of alluded to that. Because I looked at these numbers, like this before. I have 2 different channels that our podcast goes out on. And right now we're on I think 6 different podcasting platforms as well.
Right.
But between those 2, we're approaching around 44,000 downloads in the last 9 years.
That's fantastic.
1,000 downloads in the last 30 days. So folks are listening. So if you're watching on YouTube or listening onto the audio podcast, whatever channel you're on, subscribe, listen, and share, because that's how this all happens. That's why you and I talk.
It's most definitely.
Okay, so I'm going to do something here, Jerry. If everything goes right and my buttons click right, this is you.
That's me. Might have been a couple years younger there, but that's me.
Okay, so folks, if you're watching or listening, what we're doing is we're showing Jerry's LinkedIn page, and this has his cleaning processes with Jerry podcast. So you started the podcast about 4 years ago. Kind of give us an idea of what they can find when they go to the podcast and listen to yours.
No problem. I just had my best podcast recently. I'm ready to release another one, but my last one, it was with a rep from DEMA Engineering, which is actually it's a world leader in dispensers. It's actually their headquarters. I'm not sure if you know this is in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yes, it is.
When I went to the ISSA show 4 years ago, I believe they had closed it, whatever. I had asked a gentleman from DEMA if he would join me. And it took me 4 years for him to finally, he called me one day and said, we're introducing a new product. I want to come on the podcast. So, you know how it is, trying to, getting guests and stuff like that. It was great. It was on a new laundry dispenser that they're bringing out that really does have some great features in it. And the podcast has been a good hobby up till now. I would be only honest to say more than once or twice I've considered stopping it. I will tell you today, I'm more than committed to doubling, tripling down on it, and I'm doing different things in the background to take it bigger and better. When I went to one of my mentors, another mentor beside yourself, a mentor advised me to start a podcast. And when I went to this mentor of mine, and here was my question. This is pretty embarrassing, but I only can tell the truth. I asked, how many podcasts do people normally do before they quit? That was my question to a coach of mine. And they laughed and said,
before they just give up and say it's too much work, but I'm not getting it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And they said, I don't know, but I didn't like that question, Jerry. You're already talking about quitting. You haven't even done the first one. Right. I will tell you, there is an average. The average podcast only goes 6 to 8 not downloads, but after 6 or 8 shows, they give up on it. So I'm well past that. I'm not even near where you're at, but I have a lot of fun doing it. It becomes the only aggravating thing is like I said, sometimes with guests and stuff like that, you were thinking they were going to show up and they don't, and that's unfortunate. But I'm having a lot of fun, and I plan on increasing it a lot more in the future.
I think that's one of the things, because of my position and career and stage in life. People say, "Are you monetizing your podcast?" And I do not. And those people that are, hey, great. I'm just not into trying to make money with it. It's not a job. I do it as a service to the cleaning industry, a place where we can talk. People, I've got some scheduled for next week to tape. And the guy says, "What's the outline? What is?" I said, "Whatever you want to talk about."
Right.
And he goes, "I haven't done one like that." I said, "So it'll be a unique experience. You just talk with me."
That's right. That's right. I tell people it's what if we met in the afternoon, had a cup of coffee or a beer, even though I don't drink anymore. But, it's just hanging out, getting to know one another, sharing stories about what we're doing, because we're all trying for the best and we all work very hard. So I have a lot of fun doing it. I hope people do tune in, and I won't wait till your book comes. When's the book? I got to come back to your book. When's the book? What's your target date? I'll be your coach for once. I'm going to put you on odds. Do you have a target date on your book?
Well, actually right now, the first volume is in copyright and proofreading. The book cover is being worked with. My trademark phrase is under review to renew its registered trademark. All of that has to be done before, but I'm trying to shoot for the first volume to be out by the end of the year.
Now, are you self-publishing it, or are you doing?
Yes, I will be self-publishing it. Will come out as an ebook, and of course, then you have to decide the price and all that stuff too. But the title. So this is the first time I've ever said this to anybody outside of my immediate family. Wow, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Go for it.
I Am a Janitor, The Making of a Janitor, Volume 1.
Good for you. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
But I can't really say much more than that.
That's okay. So it's going to be 3 books. So
it'll actually be three different volumes. And the third volume, of course, is still under. I'm still working. So the third volume, here's the, I guess, if you will, until I retire, the third volume will not be written.
Good for you.
But the second volume will be the middle of my career, which is what you and I've talked about this afternoon, is the sales career, moving from a janitor through sales, and the experiences, the trials, the tribulations, the ups and the downs, and as we just said, the behind the scenes that nobody's ever heard about.
Can I share one story, please? I haven't thought of this story, but you're talking about stories. I'll tell you one of my good stories.
Okay, so wait a minute. Okay, so folks, here's the thing. Before we end the podcast, I always ask the guests. I said, just give me something. Give me that really good hook. I think maybe we're about to get that. So hang on, folks. Don't leave us quite yet. We're not done.
This is the hook. This is the. I had to go out and collect money. No one, on a Friday night, the person was leasing a dish machine, not paying the bills. So the company sent me out there.
Uh-oh.
So I'm sitting there. I didn't get any money. Couldn't find a guy. Got hiding. I got mad and I went back at Friday evening at 6:00. And the guy gave me more than enough excuses, and you could tell he wasn't going to be open much longer. So I went and took out a wash arm on the dish machine.
Oh my!
Yes, I had never done that before, and I should have backed this up because my wife didn't want me to go, and she said, "I'm scared for you." And I said, I've never done this before. I didn't know I was going to do it. I had never done this before. So that my wife knew I was safe, she had me on the phone. So I set the phone down on the stainless steel table. I take the wash arm. I said, "Sir, I got to take your wash." I told him, I'm taking your washrooms till you pay. Why should you be using our machine and not paying us?
Right.
And I took the washrooms out, and they're stainless steel. It's a stainless steel table, and my phone's there. I take the washroom off. I set it down on the table. It's metal against metal. Bang. My wife's in the parking lot. She thought I had gotten shot. Needless to say, I left it there. I left. I didn't cake it. I ended up, the whole thing, it could have been a comedy movies. But if the long story short, I think by Tuesday of the next week, he was out of business anyway. Never got paid anyway. But it was like, don't put down water. Stainless steel, stainless steel.
Oh my! Well, hey, folks, you know what? You never know what we're going to talk about here on Beyond Clean.
I'm starting my book right now.
This is the fun. I mean, I think we have our jobs. We have what we do every day, and at this point in your career and mine, we can laugh and we can have fun. There are the important things that we do every day, but this is what podcasting, I have come to believe, is about for me. It's not for everybody, but it's where people that have been in the cleaning industry still are. We can share the stories, the trials or tribulations, the successes, the failures, because that's what makes up people. And if you know anything about cleaning, it's all about people.
That's correct. That's correct.
Gary, I thank you for being on here and coming back again. You might not remember, but I always ask this question before I let you go. What's on your bucket list personally for next year?
My bucket list is to sign up for more public speaking.
But that's business. I want to know personal.
You did say personal.
Yeah, that's business. See, that's what's hard for some of us. We can't separate the two. This hits home with me, and I will tell you, my biggest thing from today forward is to stay healthy. Right.
Because you and I are near the same age, and as we get older, we need to take care of ourselves immensely, a whole lot more, because we have to be safer. We have to be safer in our driving. We have to be safer for many different things. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I am just trying to become the best version of myself health-wise. I'm walking more and I'm exercising more. I always was overweight. I still slightly overweight now, but that's fine. I'm not trying to lose weight. I'm just trying to stay healthy. And it comes down with taking care of yourself by eating properly and exercising some each day.
Jerry, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. You're always welcome to jump on and talk with us. Folks, if you're listening to the podcast, everything will be in the show notes. We'll have emails. Excuse me. We'll have contact information there. If you're watching on YouTube, you've seen Jerry's email address along the bottom. We'll have all the notes in there too. Subscribe, like, and share. That's how this podcast really gets its traction. This is why we do what we do. But folks, I want to tell you, you've learned a little history about Jerry and I and our backgrounds and stuff. So you know what we've done and everything. You kind of have an idea of some of our journey. My focus to you this afternoon as we let you go, whatever journey you're on, make sure that it is healthy, positive, and proactive. Till we see you next time, stay safe out there, folks. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll get you on soon. I'm not going to wait for your book.